Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Superflower Leadex Gold 650 watt power supply. Now it may look black and gold on the box, but don't worry, the power supply itself is white. I reviewed the Platinum 1200 watt Superflower power supply not so long ago, and I asked overclockers if I could get my hands on one of the slightly smaller wattages, because obviously things are getting much more efficient nowadays and you don't necessarily need an enormous power supply to get like a reasonable single graphics card rig running. So this comes in around the £85 mark, which for a gold rated 650 watt power supply is actually quite competitive. The RM650, for example, is more £90. It may be a small price difference, but when we're talking something, you know, that's £5 difference at £90, that's still, you know, kind of a 7% price decrease. So it, you know, the price is still very competitive. Obviously I like it because it's white. You've got the nice Superflower logo on the side. These parts do light up with the and there's clear connectors to put in, but I will show you that lit up anyway. The grille itself is quite an industrial looking design. It's not like the bolt-on one or anything, it's actually stamped into the power supply top itself. If you have your power supply facing down, then you will be greeted by the Superflower logo and all the specifications on the side. I, though, prefer fan up. It's well documented that I do, and a lot of people kind of get funny about airflow and, you know, positive and negative pressures and all that type of stuff. I'd actually personally say ignore your power supply, because that fan should hardly spin anyway, so just do it the way that you like. And I prefer fan up because I personally think it's prettier. Now, as I was saying about the cables are the same as they were with the 1200 watt. Now the ends, as I said to you, are clear, so when the LEDs shine through, they do shine through quite nicely. The problem is I wasn't too keen on the ends, because the PCI Express ends are red and then your CPU ends are blue. There was another blue I had in my hand. So you've got red and blue connectors, and I personally think that spoils it. I understand why they've done it, but you can see that they've got, I thought they had, oh they do have, see it, you've got SLI. So you know it's a PCI Express, and there it is, that's what I was on about, CPU 2 and CPU 1. So you know the difference. I don't personally think that they needed to have different colours. Most of the cables are flat black or a very nice braid, and the cables all inside are black as well, so it's rather nice. One thing that I will say though is these connectors are actually patented by Superflower, so you won't find any of the cable companies being able to make you aftermarket braided kits for these. If you wanted to get them custom braided, you would literally have to get them custom braided and go to somewhere like in the UK. You'd have to go to Pexon. Yes, I do know Pexon. So you'd have to go to Pexon if you wanted these done, which I can highly recommend. Or you're just going to end up having to stick with these, or spending the days, weeks, hours and broken fingertips and all that kind of stuff trying to do it yourself. So you've got the options there. I actually really like these ends as well. Like I said, I will show you them lit up. But now it's actually time for us, or for me, to get the old girl on the torture test, which is our power supply tester. And yeah. Okay then, so moving on to the testing, we've got it all fired up with our power supply tester. The reason why it's off at the moment is it makes an awful lot of noise once we get it going. Just to let you know, I have tested the semi-passive mode. And the semi-passive mode, with it at 50%, which is like 325 watts, takes about 15 minutes before it goes from completely passive into the semi-passive, meaning the fan starts to go. One thing I will say right from the very beginning as well is this is actually quieter than the 1200 watt unit that I tested before, which is a very good point to be talking about, because I wasn't very impressed with the fan on this. Whether it's this because of the low wattage, there's less to cool, there's less heat, really not sure, but the fan is much quieter. It does still spin at probably the same rate as the 1200 watt, but nevertheless it's a point that I wanted to raise. Getting the machine on, the fan will kick in. We do have the unit all set up ready, and we've got a 20%, then we've got a 50%, then we've got a 100% run, and they're the ratings that we're going to be looking for the gold rating. So if I hit this button here, you can see that the light has come on. The fan started to spin, but it hasn't because I've got it in the semi-passive mode. If I was to switch it on to the auto mode, the fan pretty much just spins all the time. What we can see is it's pulling 132 watts, 87.5% efficient over here. We wanted that to be above 87% for it to hit the gold rating at this value, so that does that. We come down to this, all of the 12s are your 12 volt rails. Pretty much anything from about 11.96 upwards is good. We wouldn't really want it to go above 12.2 from my own personal preference. So 12.16, this is actually a really lovely strong voltage there. And as you'll see as we go through, that actually doesn't move that much as the load goes up either, which is also a very good point. But because we have the laptop all set up as well, what we can do is zoom in, and up here, this is your peak to peak voltage. This is your millivolts, this is your ripple. If you have a look on the left hand side, you can see that graph, it's actually above the mean line, and that's because we don't have any negative voltages on this power supply during this testing. You can actually see that the we've got the minimum voltage and the maximum voltage are both in the plus. So the minimum voltage is 5.8 and then the maximum is 11.5. So that gives us a 5 millivolts of ripple. But the fact that they are above that mean line, you know, it's not really too much of a problem there, but we would prefer it to be up there rather than dipping below lots. Obviously this is at our lowest setting. It's at, as I showed you before, I'll come back down, 132 watts. What we can do though, I'll zoom out a little bit for you, just flick that button there and we instantly go up to our 50% rating. The fan is still not running. As you can see, it's still passive. It will take a little while to warm up. We've got all of our settings there. Now we've got 90.09 there now for the efficiency. And essentially that's the wattage that is being taken from the power supply. This is the wattage that is being essentially pulled from the wall, but it's actually been pulled from the power supply unit because it's how it calculates it all for you. And you can see now that it's gone up to actually 91% efficient quickly there. I've rated it in my testing as 90 point, I can't remember, but I'll bring the graphs up for you at the end just so that we can talk through it all compared to other power supplies anyway. And then when we move up, we've got the ripple again. You can see that it's a lot closer to that mean line this time, but we're up to 8-ish, nearly 9-ish on the millivolts. Final one, I am trying to whiz through this because this is for all those technical guys out there that love to see all the mambo jumbo, but we will be doing graphs and then all the comparisons in a second. So 89% efficient. We actually only needed that to be 87, so it's doing pretty well. It's pretty much almost putting out, well no, I suppose not. It's above gold efficiency, but it's not brilliant, as I will show you in the graphs in a bit. Actually, the fan's still not started, even though we are at max wattage, but that's because it's not got fully up to temperature yet. Obviously it will do eventually, and then that fan will start to spin. But if we move up, we can see millivolts wise, we've only just gone over 10 millivolts, even though we are pulling 650 watts. So this is its maximum rating and it's still only got 10 millivolts of ripple. But if we were to move on to the graphs, okay, so volts first, and essentially this graph is a bit it's a difficult one to really talk about too much because they're all good results really. The only one that we can really pick out as there being very different results is the fact that on the RM1000 you only got 12 volts dead, and then the other ones were kind of slightly higher. especially at 50%. There you can see it goes up to 12.2. So that would be the one there I would say was the weakest. But then when you get right down to the bottom, you can kind of say with the AX1500i, that was the strongest because it was so close to 12 the whole way through. But that's nonetheless to say that the Superflower didn't do a good job there. It's just they're all kind of safe, really. We obviously don't want too many variable, you know, too wide a variable there, too much. But nevertheless, but if we move on to efficiency, this is really for me where the Superflower falls down. Now the ones at the top, you've got the RM1000 and then you've got the Superflower. They're both gold rated. Everything below that is platinum, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on there. But the reason why I say the Superflower didn't do that well is even though it's gold rated, it did only really squeeze in at the gold. You can see the RM1000 there, that it was much stronger. The RM1000 was really, it was pumping out platinum rate efficiency. So it is again, it's kind of a difficult one because I haven't really done enough gold rated power supplies, but the efficiency there, it's above the gold rated specifications. It's not something we can actually or even should really mark it down with. But really, this power supply's ace card is the Ripple, and the Ripple, as you saw before, looked very, you know, it was very good, but it's not really until we put it into this graph that you can see how good it is. And essentially, the higher up the graph is, the worse it is, the closer to the bottom it is, the better it is. Now the AX1500i at the bottom is a digital power supply, so everything is kept within such a tight leash. But when you look at the numbers there of the Ripple tests on the 20%, now obviously with the AX1500i 20%, it would have been much higher. But when you look at it there, that the Ripple result at 20% for the Superflower is lower than the AX1500i. And then as we go up, there really isn't a great deal between the Superflower and that AX1500i power supply. So the Ripple on this is amazing. I actually said in the previous review that I did that the Leadex 1200 watt was the best non-digital power supply I'd ever seen as far as Ripple was concerned. Well, to be honest, the gold 650 watt has completely backed that out of the park. And it's the Ripple really that kills your rigs. Now that's not to say that the RM1000 isn't that great, but 45 millivolts of Ripple at the top there's a fairly big step when you consider you know, all of the others. I mean, the Cooler Master V1200 is the lowest one there, and that's, you know, that's a good like 15 points behind, you know, 15 millivolts behind it. The Superflower doesn't even put out 15 millivolts at all, so you can see that the gaps between these are actually quite enormous, and that result is absolutely stonking. Okay then peeps, so moving on to the conclusion for the second time, because I have filmed it before and I forgot to turn the microphone on. But anyway, we'll start with the award first, and the award is undoubtedly, and I do quite literally mean, I can't stress this enough, undoubtedly the Gold Award. The Gold Award. Actually, no. Yes, Gold Award, but, and I've literally just made my mind up right at this second. I've already filmed the conclusion once, and I'm actually going to give it the TTL White Gold Award as well, and I will explain why. If you had a look at the graphs that I spoke to you about previously, you'll see that the efficiency side of it is above the gold rating, but the only other gold rated power supply, which is the RM1000 that I tested, was practically a platinum rate power supply. Only really didn't just make the cut when it did the proper 80 plus rating, but it, you know, as far as the results that I got, it was platinum. So that's why it looks bad. It's because it's really the only properly gold one that I've done. As far as the 12 volt rails are concerned, that's all kind of run of the mill as you would expect. I don't really, you know, I've not got a massive amount to take from those graphs, other than now I'm getting more experience and stuff. I wouldn't be particularly happy about the RM1000 now, where it went up to 12.2. But really, this unit comes into its own in an incredible way when we start talking about those Ripple results. let's put it into context. This is 85 quid at Overclockers. The reason why they got it in is because I asked. But I didn't ask because I thought it was an epic unit. It was more the fact that they didn't have it in stock, and it was something I was quite interested in. Because obviously I tested the 1200 watt power supply, but this will pretty much power all of the rigs, or most of the rigs out there that you guys have got. If you've got a 290X with a 8-core AMD processor, this might be on its raggedy edge a little bit, because though that combo is going to draw a lot of power. But if you had a 290X with an 8-core Intel, for example, it'd be about 550 watts, so you'd have 100 watts worth of headroom. And I've shown you with when this was put at 650 watts running flat out, it wasn't loud, and it didn't even kick the fan in to start off with. But if you were running, for argument's sake, like an Ivy bridge or a Haswell or even a Sandy bridge with a newer graphics card, or even some of the old ones, maybe not an NVIDIA 480, this would be ample for you. And that ripple is unfucking believable. I thought the 1200 watt version of this ripple wise was amazing. This literally made my jaw drop. It made my jaw drop that much. I went and got the 1200 watt out of the box again, retested it to make sure something wasn't up with my oscilloscope. And obviously all of the results that I tested with the 1200 watt before, I got all the results again. So I'm happy it's not some weird fluke. It's either that or this is like the golden sample. A lot of people will now be saying, yeah, it's a golden sample, they tweaked it for it. No, this literally came from stock at Overclockers. It didn't come direct from Superflower. It didn't come, anything like that. It wasn't a sample that they've sent specifically for reviews. This has come out of the review stuff. This has come out of the retail stuff. So it's just been taken off the shelf and sent to me. And it's fucking brilliant. To the point, I would say, if you're in the market for a 650 watt power supply, this is the unit to get. Now, there's probably going to be people out there that are going to pick faults in my review and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. Crack on. Let's have a bit of a debate on it. Hell, I might learn something. But I'd love to know how I've got something like this wrong. For me, that ripple is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And there's no real place with this that I found anything that I dislike. And the reason why I gave it that White Gold Award is, to be honest with you, for 85 quid to be putting out numbers close to a £500 power supply, as far as ripple was concerned, is unbelievable. You can see the difference with some of them there. I mean, this puts out less millivolts of ripple than the gap from the Cooler Master 1200 watt up to the ripple ratings that the RM1000 was putting out. It's absolutely unreal. So the reason why I gave it the White Gold Award was because, to be fair, as long as you're not that fussed about platinum rating, and it's gold rated anyway, it's not saying it's something it's not. If you're not fussed about platinum rating, then this really is the 650 watt power supply to get. And I thoroughly recommend it. And that's why it gets the White Gold Award, is when it really tickles my fancy as well. And it's something that I would really, I would pay for it with my own money. It's much quieter than 1200 watt, which is another reason why I've kind of, swung towards the TTL White Gold as well. But it obviously gets the OC3D Gold Award as well, so it's a double award winner. It not only gets the normal work one, it gets the kind of sideline. Don't think it's a better award than the gold, because it's not. The gold is the big daddy award that we want to talk about, but it's got kind of a sideline award as well, and that's just me saying I really fucking like it. Like I've said, and Overclockers, you can quote me on it, if you're in the market for a 650 watt gold rated power supply, this is the puppy that you want to be going to buy. Also, I said at the beginning as well that the connectors here are patented by Superflower, and they are patented by Superflower as well, so you can't get like an aftermarket kit and buy something off the shelf unless Superflower magically start doing them, but I don't think they will. So if you do, and you do want to customise your rig, you're either going to have to do them yourself, which is obviously going to be mind-blowing and takes fucking ages, or you're going to need to go and talk to Pexon nicely. And I'm hoping to get some of Pexon's cables in the not too distant future, so we can see some proper custom cables as well. But anyway, if you're in the market for some custom Leadex Superflower cables, go and give Pexon a shout and let them know that I sent you. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with the gold award-winning 650 watt super flower power supply, but also the TTL white gold award-winning. And like I said, I've literally just decided that, and I've already filmed the conclusion once. But anyway, so if you want one of these 650 watt power supply, this is the one to get. Go click buy, 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 buy. Oh, bye bye.